Hello, hello, and ahoy, hoy, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. How are you guys? And welcome to episode 26 of Off the Mark. I am your host, Miss Tootie O, and with me as always is my beautiful co-host, Miss Meeks Kali. Hello, gorgeous. Oh, look at that little sunflower.
hello. Time for another cast.
Yes, I'm ready, man. I got
some goodies.
Coffee. 2 cups of coffee. So today's episode, as we mentioned in the previous episode, that we really wanted to dig a little deep into Cuomo and Newsom, Newsom, and I don't know, Cuckoo Cuomo. I don't know. Who cares?
Oh, that's a good one. Like it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, we quick update on California-wise. Newsom, we as we mentioned, we have 1.9 million signatures, and we only needed 1.5. I don't remember when the hearing or recall or whatever the dealio is. I think it's supposed to be in April sometime.
I saw a post that said they're still that it's like might go to hearing. So I don't know what the delay is, but I don't know.
Yeah, what I found was interesting about it was, as I was reading a little bit more about it, is most of these signatures, if not all of the signatures, are basically grassroots. Everything was voluntary and not forced upon people, and it was really literally just California Americans pushing to get this guy out. We really hate this guy.
We're like, you're ruining our home. Like, this guy's got to go.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Other thing we want to bring up is Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York. If you've watched any bit of news, which I do not, but I do understand that he is in the news for mainly for his sexual harassment allegations that people have against him, and they're just coming out of the woodworks. These women are lining up. So gross. But
yeah, they're up to 5 already, women who have accused him, and there's a huge push and call now for Cuomo is resigning, and he said there's no way that he's resigning. If there's evidence there, then like let it go to court and like go through the trial, and we'll handle it as it comes. But it's interesting that he's being made such a martyr now, because in the beginning of the pandemic, especially with his book deal, American Crisis, he got like a mid 7-figure advance for this book deal, just applauding him for his, like, he was the golden boy, or like the representation of how this crisis was supposed to be held. And even back then, people were questioning his handling of sending COVID positive patients back into nursing homes, and how he was, if like our main objective was to protect the elderly and the vulnerable, save grandma was like, our virtue signaling that we kept hearing. And yet he was actively taking steps to compromise and endanger, a lot of these people. So it turns out that a lot of the deaths that they were experiencing in New York and California are 2 of the states that were really used as examples of the threat of COVID and how dire the situation was, because we kept saying, oh, New York hospitals are overrun, and that was like the footage and things that they were showing us.
She's nuts.
I will not be ignored. And so like that was such a huge like marking of the tragedy of like, oh, these numbers, like it was really adding to the ticker that they had at the bottom of CNN and stuff, these elderly deaths in New York. And then to find that they were intentionally being COVID positive, sent to nursing homes, where they would then get to the point of near death, and then they were being sent back to the hospital, so that way it could be counted as a COVID death in hospital, to then justify them getting more funding and more ventilators and all of that kind of stuff, when really they were just upping the numbers, where the nursing homes were then becoming these like cesspools of COVID, basically, where they were intentionally, contaminating everybody. And instead of, addressing the backlash even back then, and like in June, July, it's been this entire, time, but especially I think a month ago or so, that the allegations like really came forward, and like the evidence and the numbers were irrefutable, that they're finally calling him into question and to address it and take responsibility for it. That then, just as that's happening, and just as we're entering Women's History Month, that the Me Too movement makes a reprise. And like, remember now and they've even been likening him to Harvey Weinstein and all of those kinds of things. And there's just been, and we've seen how the coverage differs from depending on who's being accused of these type of, sexual assault or misconduct allegations. So all of a sudden there's been a parade of interviews with all these people accusing him, and not to say that they don't have valid stories, and believe all women and all that, but it's just interesting that like sometimes women accuse and they're not given the same amount of airtime depending on who the candidate is. Biden himself and Tara Reid is an example of that. So they're, intentionally directing the anger and criticism of Cuomo to be about the sexual allegations, and it's at the same time like dismissing it, because according to him, he was just trying to make a friendly like work environment. Sometimes he makes jokes that go too far, which is the same like dismissing that they had for Biden, that like, oh, he just doesn't know you're not supposed to sniff people, like not everybody has learned those social cues,
Right.
I guess, so like, old men. But there's like pictures of Cuomo like grabbing a girl's face at like a public, wedding reception. And they all have, very, somewhat detailed accounts, who knows what, and he's, the only thing that he's denying is that he actually touched anybody inappropriately, but all the words he's just saying are that he said it, but it was taken out of context or whatever. And all the airtime that's being given to criticism of Cuomo's resigning, it's like, yeah, the nursing homes, but can you believe all this like sexual assault? And there's a call for him to be impeached even. So it's more coming like top down instead of, like you said, the recall for Newsom is so grassroots that it really was just like families and people and business owners saying like, we need to fix this, and he's not doing it. We need to hold somebody account, like we need the leader of California to be held accountable for how the state's being run. And so like the recall is such a different approach, where the impeachment is really like being advertised and promoted in the media networks, and he's, being made an example of, much like Harvey Weinstein, when of course, like Harvey Weinstein wasn't the only Harvey Weinstein in Hollywood, but he was the one that like got the Weinstein treatment, of being martyred. And there even have been comparisons made with Cuomo that there's only one other governor who has been impeached in the history of New York, which was William Schultzer, I believe, in October of 1913. And even that was debated at the time historically as being a politicized event, that he went against the Tammany Hall political organization, which helps to fund different like candidates for their campaign. So it's part of how they're able to select instead of elect, the candidates and politicians. And so after William Schultzer was in office, he went after Tammany Hall and tried to remove their influence in the campaign. And then he instead was tried for like election misconduct and stuff like that, and then was removed from office. And he himself called it at the time political lynching, and that they had targeted him and that he was removed, but then they didn't penalize him in a way where he couldn't hold office after that. He was just added to the state assembly after. So who knows if Cuomo's going to get the same treatment, that they just need him like a fall guy to be like, the new Me Too target to take our attention through this month of March, and to never mind like Biden and Harris's business, so that we can all just like focus on, oh, Cuomo, bad guy now. Because
that literally sounds like the same exact thing that they did to Donald Trump.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So the same exact structured, planned way of getting rid of somebody. And honestly,
it's their MO.
We all know in America that sex sells no matter what.
Right.
The Clinton impeachment was about sex.
Right.
Nothing more. Nothing.
And he got more popular. They've grown in political power since then. The two of them.
And for some reason, sex scandals seem to be the way to go, and we know that, and the news, the mainstream media knows we know that.
How many people broke in with a sex tape, to become a celebrity?
Right. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, no kidding. And
so it's like they say, there's no bad press,
It's just, the fact that our entire focus is that it says a lot. It really just says a lot as to where the mainstream media and where these people's heads are. It's always sex. It's always sex. Whether it's it's now it's being trickled down to our kids. Think about your kids' genitalia and kids that maybe they don't like. It's like, why are we doing this to ourselves? Why is everything sex? Why is everything that? You know, it's to the point where there's nothing sacred about it anymore. It's pointless, it's meaningless, and it's very Black Mirror. If you guys can catch it, it's very Black Mirror, because it just, we're disassociating with ourselves, and the more they have sex shoved into our faces, and the more it's normalized to disrespect women, and it is being normalized. You know, I mean, this story alone, Cuomo, 5 women accused him. What does it say? A third woman came forward. This was a few days ago. A third woman came forward on Cuomo. Anna Rudge told the Times that, having never met Cuomo before, she removed Cuomo's hand from her back at a wedding reception, and the governor then placed his hands on her face and asked if he could kiss her. Like, okay, everybody's going to make their own assumptions as to whether that's, well, you know, it's normal and this and that. And then there's the other side of it. You're not her. You don't know how normal that is to her.
And this was in 2019, not in like 2003 or something. Like, this was post Me Too already. Right. So like we should have been mindful of that behavior. Right. Guys should have learned their lesson by now.
Again, it's a tough call because men are pigs. I mean, there's no way around it. Men think that's okay to do, and
depending on how they're raised.
Exactly. Because, like I said, like I certainly have met gentlemen who would never ever even think that would be an appropriate thing to do to a stranger who you've never met.
Especially when there's a power play dynamic there, kidding. As there was in. Oh God! That's all his former aides that are coming forward, not just, you know, random, not random women, but, you know, like general citizens.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, exactly. That'd be exactly as if a boss of mine did that to me. That'd be weird. That'd be so. No kidding. I didn't even think about that. But that's really all it is. It's a power play. Ugh. God, that's so gross. It really is. But you know what? It takes away from the fact that 9,250 people died and nobody knew about it. As Miss Kali pointed earlier, they were literally shoving people into nursing homes, elderly and otherwise. It's starting to come out that there were several 20-year-olds that had COVID that were shoved into a nursing home. Oh, wow. Honestly, I think it was purposely to spike up the numbers. I think
need a breeding ground.
Sent people to their deaths. That's sick. This man is a murderer. 9,250 deaths covered up. That's not even the amount of people that passed away with COVID symptoms there in New York. That's just the number that was covered up.
Right.
Why? Why are we not asking ourselves, why would they cover those numbers up? And then at the same time, boost them. It's just interesting. None of it makes.
And yet we have 3 funerals for George Floyd.
No, oh my goodness. No kidding. During COVID, during lockdown. Yeah.
So it's like, it reminds me of that Stalin quote, and I'm paraphrasing, but he says, like, 1 death is a tragedy, 1,000 is a statistic.
Think about this. That's a hell of a lot more people that died on 9/11.
Wow.
We were outraged. We were terrified. This man had 9,000 people killed in 1 year. That should scare the hell out of us. It really should, because there was no reason for it aside from money and funding. And you know what scares me now is to understand that maybe California had similar tactics because we had similar motives. Long Beach itself, you know, Mayor Garcia's in his own right, a puppet for Newsom, who's a puppet for, you know, the higher ups. It makes me wonder. It really does make me wonder if Long Beach had similar tactics, because our numbers went nuts for a little bit too, where the morgues were overwhelmed, where people were, the crematoriums were you know, smoke was billowing out. Like, they literally like showed pictures of black smoke billowing out of crematoriums in Long Beach because the deaths were so high. And it was like, what kind of shit is this? Why are you even showing us this?
It's very green, Rob.
No kidding. And Long Beach is still terrified. There are still people walking around double masked. And I'm just like, dude, like, you know, and I think Mayor Garcia himself lost his stepdad and his mother to COVID, supposedly. Whether I personally don't believe it. This man is he does well on the camera, and that's his favorite thing to do is be on camera. And if you ask me, I think his mom is just fine, and that's just my personal opinion. But if he did,
She's gonna follow Kim Jong.
but like I said, this man has a knack for drama, just like AOC. He's our very own AOC. Let's put it that way.
Well.
He's a brat, and I can't wait till he's gone, or I'm gone. Either one. One of us needs to leave Long Beach. But yeah, I mean, back to Cuomo. 9,250 people passed away in nursing homes, and those numbers were covered up. I don't even know if the numbers were covered up, or if the people, or if the identities of these people themselves were covered up. You know what I mean?
My understanding was that they were returned to the hospitals for the sake of the death, so that they could be logged there, so it didn't count as
as a nursing home death.
As a nursing home death, so it wouldn't give way, so it wouldn't trigger that. Oh, everybody's dying in the nursing homes.
Oh.
But then it would just add to the overall state number. So they're realizing that the location of the people.
Sick.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
So he was filtering them in and then filtering them out. So, but they were, contracting it at the nursing homes intentionally, because otherwise, why would you send people? And it's much like the Biden thing, him releasing immigrants that had tested positive without, protocols of self-quarantining or however they're expecting people to manage that.
Yeah.
But it's reckless.
Again, I don't watch it. So I don't know if people are talking about this or actually right now it's Meghan Markle for some reason.
Oh yeah, that's the big thing.
Family's back for some whatever. Dr. Seuss being canceled, Mr. Potato Head. So those stories are all circulating that I see. And
those are the trending stuff. And WandaVision.
I don't even know what that is. WandaVision. What is that?
Oh, that's WandaVision is on Disney Plus, and it's part of the Marvel universe.
That's right.
Yeah. Ooh, we should do a cast on that one too, because I have some thoughts.
Have you seen it?
I just watched it yesterday.
Kidding. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't. But
it's saying stuff. It's talking to us. Yeah.
I gotta watch it. I like when you do that. I really do. It's talking to us.
It's like American Horror Story. Let's just put it that way. And it has similar actors. Yeah.
What? On Disney?
Mm-hmm.
Is it supposed to be horror? Is it
it's not horror. It's not horror, but satanic, maybe. Yeah. Marvel. Except for it's with light beams and CGI. So you don't notice it's gruesome. But yeah, they make a lot of jokes about hell and stuff like that. And it's and we'll save it for the cast.
Okay,
next week.
Yeah, I'm in. That does sound pretty cool. Yeah, the Cuomo Brothers. I want to bring up Chris Cuomo too, because that is something else that was that bloop, made a little blip in the news, and then now it's gone. But Chris Cuomo made the stupidest comment ever, and how it's not considered racism or the way they call it these days is interesting to me. Is immature, very juvenile. But other than that, I don't think he's a racist. But it's the stupidest thing I've heard in a long time. And these people, mind you, filter and tell us the news. You're supposed to take them seriously. Right. You know what I mean? Granted, they're having fun. They're going back and forth and they're having fun. But just go ahead and play the clip. It's just he's an idiot.
Just looking out of the window, watching the asphalt grow, thinking how it all looks hand-me-down.
How do you know the words to Good Times?
I'm black on the inside.
So, good times, anytime you need a baby.
So Florida, who, by the way, was a hugely educated, I think she was a Yale.
Oh, wow. Don Lemon's all unfazed by him saying that. He's used to holding it in.
A good time. So, first of all,
you gotta be black.
You don't have to be black. That's
it's not prerequisite.
Is he serious right now? Also, the fact that we grew up with shows like that in the 80s also tells me how little racism we actually had in this country. I was raised with that show, looking at black people on TV, and I thought nothing of it. This show's amazing. Mom, Dad, look what's up. You know what I mean? those kinds of things are things we forget. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? Family Matters. We grew up with these things. So where did the shift happen? Where now all of a sudden there's not enough Black people on here, there's not enough Asians here, there's too many white people everywhere. When did that happen? Like, I get it, but at the same time, I don't get it, because we clearly didn't grow up that way. You know what I mean? So back to his comment, for him to say that, like, that's not normal. It's just not a normal thing to say. It really just tells me how much of a wall they have. The left, right. the left, I mean, how much of a wall they actually do have when it comes to minorities.
Yeah, they're so removed from, the reality, or like the people. They don't really have their finger on the pulse, so to speak. They get their stories from the top down, and it resonates how it resonates once it reaches the general public. But we were raised in a time where it was very like We Are the World, and they had that song, and like Globalism. I remember in elementary school, there was like all those like the cutout of the like people, but it'd be different ethnicities all holding hands. And like that was very world peace, and like we had Captain Planet, and all the people from all the nations coming together. But it was also like UN, introducing us to the idea of United Nations at a very young age. Like I remember we had model UN at our schools and stuff like that to practice. So it was kind of preparing us for that globalist idea and not to be so attached to America. So it had its own place in that. And you're right that we did have that sector of representation when we did have the Bill Cosby show and Family Matters and things like that. And it still borders, because yes, they had respectable careers where they're like a policeman and a doctor, but they still had like, how I knew of Family Matters and introduced to it as a kid was because of the hyperbole of Urkel, which was like such a, a cartoonish character that like I was able to connect with it at a young age. Like that's why I remember being promoted and seen on interviews and hearing the catchphrase and stuff like that before actually understanding like the family values of the TV right. show. Yeah. So even that is like, a stumbling, bumbling fool of a Black person as the focal point of the TV show. That
with Stefan,
right? With Stefan, though, with technology, can become we can build him better. But so there's that essence to it, and then yeah, our culture has changed where now like we have very much like the Simpsons type of trope of like a fumbling husband with like hot wife, or like now it's either single parent or like it's the second marriage or like mixed family type things when you do see more melanated shows. And there's like this bridge of there's being more representation, but then also like UPN and stuff like that, it is notoriously or was owned by Kelsey Grammer, so or others like BET isn't necessarily an authentic representation, even though it's like on the TV now. It's not, it's still a controlled opposition scripted culture that this is how you Black people are intended to operate in the larger society. And there was starting to be, the token Black character in all these things. So it's like looks diverse, but then also the character played a very particular role, was given certain lines and stuff like that. And just like they had Amy Poehler and Tina Fey do it, the Grammys, was it? Or no, Oscars, whatever it was.
Golden Globes, I think.
Golden Globes, that's the thing. Whatever they do. Pointing out the organization that that it's all white or whatever. So there are things like that there's institutions like that. And so it is controlled in a sense, and there's not as much of like a grassroots representation. And there kind of is, because like we have platforms like YouTube and things like that. So it's out there. It's just like, what is the official popular thing that everybody's supposed to pay attention to and like, and then what's actually in the culture of, people's favorites. And there's like kind of a dichotomy of that.
Yeah, but I think you can say about basically anything you put on TV, from the white jock. Not everybody's a white jock. walk outside and you're gonna, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I think
it's a stereotype. Yeah. Not fleshed out characters.
I think in a sense, because I think there has to be, they got to start somewhere. You know what I mean? Stereotypes exist for their own reasons. You know, a stereotype is basically just a pattern of behavior, or a pattern of a characteristic, or you know what I mean. So it's not like they're untrue or specifically set out to be insensitive. You know what I mean? Again, it all depends on how you go about it, how you look at it. You can there's parodies where you poke fun of the one black guy that's in the group, and I think that's perfectly fine. In fact, I find that to be hilarious to be able to point certain things out about certain people. Oh yeah, I am like that, aren't I? I think that's okay. That being said, it alienates at the same time. So you know, and then on top of everybody shoving the idea that we're still oppressed and that there's not a representation of this and that and the other, you know, we're being fed those lies. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, I believe that's a lie. And it just seems like it's now out of balance. While we've always had these people and these certain things and these certain representations on TV. I think the biggest thing in my generation that I remember changing was gay people being on TV and trans people being on TV, or transsexual is what we called them when we were growing up, like on Ricky Lake show. And it back then it was awful. We had TV shows where you had to figure out if there was a man or a lady. They had dudes on stage trying to figure out, okay, is that a guy or is that a girl? And it's a woman in drag or trans or whatever. And it's like, that would never be on TV today.
Oh, yeah.
Ever. That would never be on TV today. But then again, we do have RuPaul's Drag Race. So so I mean, from the outside looking in, what are we thinking? That all gay people are flamboyant and they all want to dress like this and that? You know what I mean? So stereotypes are there.
Right.
And it's up to us, as you said before, and how we're raised to see them for what they are and take them and let them water off a duck's back, and or be convinced that we are oppressed in our own way, shape, or form. But who wants to live like that? You know what I mean?
The thing that makes me think of now is kind of like the William Shakespeare quote of like, all the world's a stage and all the people merely players. And then at the same time, like Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, we do have these archetypes that are like eternal and part of just like the story and structure of humanity and how we operate together. So there is the hero, there is the trickster and stuff like that. And it's kind of like we're trying to parry the two marry the two, where you know, we're trying to see who is going to be cast as the hero, who is going to be cast as the trickster. And then at the same time, it's kind of like that tarot card of like the Wheel of Fortune with the world, how the king's on top and then he like goes down and the peasant's on the bottom, but then he's like on his rise and it's continues circulating. So at the same time, it's kind of like we all have our roles and then we're getting moved through the casting of it a little bit, that like, now you're the villain and you're going to be the trickster and you're going to be the like helpful friend.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of it. It's kind of sad that you know, things are kind of structured that way, where you know, eventually everyone's going to have their turn to be the enemy. You know, and it's even more evident now more than ever with this cancel culture bullshit that you know everybody's trying to push right now. Dr. What's Dr. Seuss's real name? Dang it, I forgot. I
spoiled the magic. No, just kidding.
I mean, now he's dead, right? The guy doesn't exist anymore on this planet. And he's a racist now. He's a racist now. We don't read these books. You know what I mean? Like that's what we're doing now to people who aren't even here. Aunt Jemima has to change her name and take a loss because racism. Like how far are we going to take this? How far are we going to take this where everything is bad and everything is now a form of oppression? And like how far are we willing to go where every single one of us is you know, silence. Maybe that's the whole reason why we haven't lost the masks yet. You know, I mean, do you talk with your mask on? Not really. I don't either. You know what I mean? The mask already alone, it just inhibits so much. If you have a mask on, there's really no conversations being had. And maybe that's part of maybe cancel culture and the lockdowns and the mask. They're all one in the same.
Right.
You know what I mean? Getting us used to I want to watch WandaVision now because I feel like it's like, I don't know why I'm thinking Wall-E, where we're just, it's just about us like just living virtually. You know what I mean? Like Wall-E or Black Mirror. But I'm curious. So yeah, I can't wait to watch it.
It's a little bit, but yeah, having your Black Mirror background, I know you'll see it through our similar lens.
Sweet. Yeah, that's cool.
But that's not how it's done.
We really got to stop talking about this show because
we're gonna give away.
Okay, back to the subject at hand. So yeah, the Cuomo brothers are idiots. One's a pig and a murderer, and the others, just tone deaf. I mean, for all of the tone deaf things that they constantly threw at us in the last 4 years of Donald Trump's administration. I don't care. Do you remember when her coat was a thing?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when caffe was a thing? Hamburgers. There's so much dumb shit that they threw at us about him, and this doesn't seem to make the radar. This ignorantly racist comment. And again, I don't think he's a racist. I don't think he hates anybody. But that was a racist comment.
Mm-hmm.
You know I'm Black on the inside.
Yeah.
Everybody knows good times, bro. That has nothing to do with anything. What a horrible thing to say. And how
in this climate,
how
the Black History Month is over. So,
but that's the thing about these Cuomo people. Is Governor Cuomo won an Emmy in 2020, right? For his great work on the news or whatever you win an Emmy for as a governor. That's what he got it for. I don't know. Do governors get Emmys? So these guys walk around town. Chris Cuomo with his stupid COVID stunts. He was tested positive sick, and then they found him jogging, and he got pissed off. Remember, somebody said, "Why are you outside? You have COVID," and he tried to attack the person who.
I forgot about that.
Was on the radar. His emergence from his basement after 3 weeks of quarantine or whatever was a big story. He came out of the basement like this, and it was just interesting to see all of their stupid stunts, and it's catching up to both of them now. All the idea that they're so invincible and they can't do anything wrong because everybody was kissing Governor Cuomo's ass for the last year, and Chris Cuomo, them being cute, going back and forth on CNN for the past year. Everybody falling in love with them. Even
so, tell us, how fantastic are you?
Right.
How do you be so phenomenal?
People coin the phrase, and I think you've seen this maybe on Colbert, but Cuomo sexual. That's the thing. Cuomo sexual. Gross. I mean, what the hell?
And how are they trying to say that? That's just people that don't know how to be that they're being inappropriate, or is it saying I don't understand?
Okay, so it was liking to people having a crush on him, or like even Ellen called herself a Cuomo sexual. Yeah. Sexual. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So yeah, these guys. I'm hoping he gets his comeuppance. In fact, I actually hope he gets put in jail for crimes against humanity.
Okay.
That's
what they are, but it's going to be swept under the rug because every time that there's another complaint about it, then there's just going to be another woman that comes forward. And they've even said that with the call for impeachment, that's basically just blowing steam, because even if he has to get like 2/3 of the majority from the state, and then it goes to the state Senate trial, and but instead of ruling and judging within there, they have the Court of Appeals court, and he appointed 6 or 7 of the judges there. So, they're not going to vote against him.
I mean, they are turning on him. In fact, a lot of the Democrats are divided. Oh, this is another story that I want to bring up.
Oh, yeah, bipartisan.
A lot of the Democrats are completely divided because, in fact, in Nevada, they just elected, I forgot her name, to the Senate, I don't remember her name. Anyway, so she's damn right socialist. So half the people, the second that she was elected to the Senate, they resigned. 5 or 6 Democrats resigned.
Oh, wow.
Even for some Democrats, what these people are pushing is too far for them. So it's happening. And I think, was it Donald Trump? Somebody predicted it. It could have been him, but it could have been somebody else. But somebody predicted that, hey, watch out, Democrats. Just because you guys are in office doesn't mean anything. You guys are about to crack and fall apart, and they are.
Right.
They're falling apart at the seams right now, which is interesting to see. Which you're not going to ever see on the news or hear on the news. But I would love to do an episode on that eventually. How they're They're crumbling. The left is
It's like Crowder said on a recent cast of how it's like we have the left and the right, and it's just that the whole thing is shifting. So it's not that like conservatives or right wings are getting more extreme to the right. It's just that the whole entire goalpost or the spectrum for everybody. So people who were in the mid are now finding themselves more on the right just because the left is going so far into socialism.
That includes us, I think. You know what I mean?
So we're moving. Our dial is set the same. It's just
exactly who
the gauge is moving.
I didn't realize. No kidding. Yeah, that includes us. So I mean, I don't want to keep going on Cuomo, but like I did want to specifically, absolutely 100% point out that this man had over 9,000 people killed, and that's not okay. Screw this sexual harassment thing. It is what it is. If you ask me, it's a distraction. I hope to God he didn't harm anybody. And if these women are in fact telling the truth, sincerest apologies. It happens, unfortunately. But
I think he can be a horrible person in a multitude of ways, and he should be held accountable for all of it. So like, obviously the one where people's lives were lost, like rings a bit more like the women are here to talk about it at the very least, not to say that that's any condolence, but that, 9,000 people. It's like, let that sit. Like it washed it, like they have the counter for CNN for the COVID cases all this time, but yet now we hear a number like 9,000. It's
it's heartbreaking.
Whereas it's the people are so detached from it of, now they just like have us focused on the carrot dangling at the end of the tunnel of, of you're going to get your vaccine. We're getting more. They said that Merck and Johnson & Johnson are teaming up so that they can amp their vaccine distribution and creation. So
what's even more sad and scary is these hospitals have carte blanche on the money they get in, on being able to just nobody's protecting these patients. Nobody's watching these people because nobody's allowed inside the hospitals. These people don't have a voice. They could be Kevorkian'd out. Is that his name? Dr. Kevorkian?
Yeah.
And
there's been videos of people going into the hospital and being told that their loved one had passed, and then they find them like zipped up and they're still breathing.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. That's the scary part. So I thank Jesus. I personally and my family haven't lost anybody to COVID, but we do know somebody who passed away in January, and it makes me wonder, could they have saved him? It scares the hell out of me, and it really does break my heart to even think that was unnecessary. That could have been that he could have been exactly. And I know other families who've lost people, and I wonder the same thing now. How?
Instead, it's turning into quotas and payouts for the hospital, that ultimately they are a business. They're not a strictly public service.
It's chilling.
Yeah.
It's chilling. But yeah, that's something that people need to know and see. And we're not in New York. It doesn't personally affect us. But if you dig down to the meat and bones of it, it does affect us. Whether we knew somebody who personally passed away with COVID symptoms or not. Like, there's questions that need to be answered, and people need to be held accountable here, there, and everywhere.
It can happen to our neighbor, no matter how far, like the other side of the country neighbor, that it can happen here. And that's how they like target people, that if you just dismiss, like, it's okay for this person to be canceled, it's okay for this person to lose their social media account, it's okay for this person to not have access to certain, essentials because they don't have their COVID pass or whatever. Like, it's this restructuring that we're having of different tiers of society.
Right.
We're turning into a caste system. So
it is crumbling. I mean, it's not all dark trees and tunnels. Things the tides are turning slowly, little by little. You can see they're their own worst enemy right now. The government that's playing the game in this moment. They're their own worst enemy, and I do believe they'll implode and crumble from the inside out. Okay. And that's kind of all. That's really all we can hope for outside of what we're doing, especially in California.
With the recall, yeah.
Right, especially here. What we're doing right now is exactly what we're supposed to be doing. 83% of these signatures have already been confirmed valid. It's so funny that all of a sudden now they have to validate, signatures, right? But that's an amazing number. That's a solid number. 83%. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. But yeah, I mean, let's end with that. Let's just end with Newsom real quick. He has proposed to open theme parks and other places by April 1st. Which
play with us.
Yeah, no kidding, right? But so it's just all of a sudden, miraculously things are going to start opening again. Right. Restaurants some restaurants are doing dine-in, some still aren't. I guess I don't know. It depends on personal preferences at this point. I don't know, but I think that was another thing that was allowed now. But yeah, 1.9 million signatures to get this guy out of office, as he is a hypocrite and doesn't follow his own damn rules. And he's just, I'm waiting for the sexual harassment shit to come out on him too.
I know, right? There's plenty.
I swear to God. It's gonna be
He's got the whole Pelosi and his camp thing going for him. So it ain't over. Pelosi's nephew here. So, and they got the 4 families of California, which we haven't gone into either yet. So maybe that should be another upcoming cast.
I'm down. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
That's good stuff. That was fun. That was so much fun. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. We hope you guys enjoyed the episode as much as we enjoy doing it, as we always do. I have been your host, Miss Tootie O. Miss Meeks Kali, thank you for all your hard work. I love you, my dear.
Love ya, love ya.
Patreon.
Thank you for all you do.
Huh?
Thank you for everything.
Network. Patreon.com/offthemarkcast. Also, Off the Mark Cast on Instagram, Twitter. We're starting to utilize those a little bit more. We suck at it. I understand that. But we're doing it. But you're watching the episodes anyway. That's all that matters. Share them. Spread the word. Spread the word. We need freedom. Let's do this. Stay focused. Stay vigilant. We love you guys. Peace.